Stop. Before you make any hard plans to move to Utah, you should watch this video about the Beehive State. And I'm not even going to make any jokes about having multiple wives. Utah usually gets sold with drone shots of Red Rock canyons, snow-covered mountains, and suspiciously cheerful families hiking before breakfast. Most relocation videos about Utah cover the obvious stuff: skiing, national parks, conservative politics, and the fact that ordering a drink occasionally feels like you're applying for a building permit. But the real Utah information is buried in the details, with things that aren't obvious and talked about to death on other channels. So before you call a realtor about a house overlooking the Wasatch Mountains, here's 10 things worth knowing. Number 10, close to the mountains doesn't mean easy access. A house may sit 15 miles from world-class skiing, but mountains don't obey suburban commuting math. Powder days can bring heavy canyon traffic, traction requirements, and a resort reservation system. Now, to anyone that's lived in the mountains, you know that there are traction requirements when you're in the snow and everything like that. You got to have like chains on or at least snow tires in some situations. And that's obvious knowledge to you guys, but not everyone has lived or even visited the mountains, so it's something people should know. Brighton, Solitude, and Alta have all used parking reservations, while UDOT encourages drivers to monitor road conditions before heading into the Cottonwood Canyons. Now, this doesn't make Utah's outdoor recreation any less impressive. It simply means living near the mountains isn't the same as having mountains waiting privately behind your garage. Your relaxing ski morning may involve 3 apps, 2 weather reports, a parking reservation, and tires approved for combat in Norway. It's like growing up in Southern California. Everyone just sees that you go down to the beach and it's wonderful. Well, you also got to consider what's the weather like, because you may be a mile in from the beach and everything looks fine. You get down there, it's overcast. Then, of course, you got to know what kind of weekend is it? Is it a busy weekend? And you got to worry about parking. Most people from a beach town in Southern California, if you're going down the beach and let's say you live 5 miles away, you'll drive till you're about a mile away and then pull out a bike or a skateboard and go the rest of the way. Number 9, Utah's young population changes everyday life. So Utah remains America's youngest state, with the median age being 32.4 years in 2025. The next closest state is Texas at 35.6 years. I know that sounds like a trivia question until you notice how much it shapes housing, restaurants, schools, recreation, and really local politics. Many communities are designed around families with children, not single adults seeking a nightlife or retirees hoping everyone nearby has stopped buying e-bikes for their frickin' kids. You'll find plenty of parks, youth sports, family events, pediatric dentists, and minivans that appear capable of carrying an entire Little League division. The trade-off is that some neighborhoods can feel socially quiet once the children go to bed. Utah is a great place to raise a family, largely because the state appears to be raising several million of them at once. Anytime you look at lists of best place to raise families, either the state of Utah or some of its cities are going to be on that list, normally in the top 5. It is. It's a great place to raise kids, which makes it a great place for parents. Number 8, alcohol isn't illegal, just heavily supervised. Utah's got some funky rules about alcohol. Most grocery and convenience stores can sell beer containing up to 5% alcohol by volume, including on Sundays. Wine, liquor, and stronger beer generally comes from state stores or authorized package agencies, and state stores are normally open Monday through Saturday. Restaurants can serve alcohol, but patrons gotta order food because apparently a cheeseburger is what separates responsible adulthood from complete social collapse. Utah also changed its identification rules in 2026. Bars and taverns must continue checking and electronically scanning everyone's identification, while restaurants generally check customers who appear to be 35 years or younger. Utah isn't dry, but buying a bottle of wine still requires planning, punctuality, and the organizational instincts of a military quartermaster. Number 7, you aren't moving to Utah, you're choosing a version of Utah. Salt Lake City, Utah County, St. George, Moab, and rural eastern Utah might as well be separate states sharing the same license plates. Much like Montana, Salt Lake City is more urban, politically mixed, and culturally diverse. Utah County is younger, more family-centered, and growing so quickly that some intersections seem to be constructed while you're driving through them. Southern Utah offers red rock scenery and retirement communities, but also has different water concerns, housing pressures, and summer lifestyles. Saratoga Springs alone grew 9.3% in 2024 alone, making it Utah's fastest growing large city, while smaller communities grew even faster. Don't ask whether Utah fits you, ask whether the one specific corner of Utah fits you. This can be said for a lot of states. California is a perfect example. The coastal area is 100% different than the eastern desert part. I mean, you're talking politically, you're talking weather, social structures, the amount of teeth people have in their heads sometimes, and it can be said for Washington, Oregon as well. But in Utah, you really gotta know where you're moving. Do your research. Number 6, new suburbs open before they're actually finished. Utah's growth is creating communities at a remarkable speed, especially along the Wasatch Front and Utah County. Unfortunately, the houses sometimes arrive before the roads, schools, stores, and medical offices. You might move into a beautiful new development and spend the next 5 years watching construction crews build the civilization around you that the realtor promised. Now, the state of Utah is providing big dollars for new transportations for these communities. $1.4 billion went to Utah County alone. Hopefully, they'll add on to their tracks train system, but a good portion of it's already set aside for new freeways and off-ramps and stuff like that. Utah officials openly acknowledge that traffic congestion, strained water supply, and housing affordability are major consequences of the continued growth. Buying in a new suburb, that could be a great deal, but make sure you check out the transportation, not just what kind of stores and restaurants they got around you. There's one other thing. When you're moving to an area that has new suburbs, housing areas, whatever you want to call it, look at the empty land around it. Is this going to be developed in the next 5 or 10 years? And then this area where you found your wonderful new home and a new development becomes overpopulated in the next 5 years because 7 other developments popped up around it. Number 5, Utah has more than one air quality season. If you move to the Salt Lake area of Utah, the Wasatch Front basically, you'll hear a new word: winter inversions. This is when cold air traps pollution in the valleys. Then the mountains disappear behind a gray curtain of bad air. You'll learn about that right away. What receives less attention is Utah's summertime ozone problem. The state's own air quality reports discuss both winter inversion pollution and summer ozone episodes. Salt Lake City is ranked 13th out of the top 50 cities for ozone. In case you don't know, ozone is not good for anyone that's got any kind of breathing thing like asthma, COPD. It's not good for any of us, but it makes it really rough on people like that. The geography that gives Utah its dramatic mountain views can also create conditions that hold pollution close to the population. Since this part of Utah is where most people move to when they're going to Utah, this is a big problem for most people thinking about Utah. Number 4, short on primary care doctors. Utah may have mountains, national parks, and enough hiking trails to make your knees file complaints, but finding a regular doctor can be a different kind of adventure. CNBC ranked Utah 48th in the country for access to primary care providers. A 2025 report found that Utah had about 96 primary care doctors for every 100,000 residents, which was second worst in the nation. Only Idaho had fewer, with about 95.4 for every 100,000 residents. So congratulations, Utah, you beat Idaho by roughly a half a doctor. Now, for comparison, Washington, D.C., which isn't a state and I get it, they have 515 primary care providers for every 100,000 residents. Of course, D.C. is packed with politicians, lobbyists, and people who probably need their blood pressure checked hourly. But that's still a massive gap. Let's go to the cities. New York State, which is bigger, has 264 primary care doctors for every 100,000 residents. And a more comparable state is Nevada, and they have 107 for every 100,000 residents. What this means in real life is that getting established with a family doctor may take longer than expected, especially if you live outside the Salt Lake City area or in one of Utah's rapidly growing suburbs. New neighborhoods can appear almost overnight, but doctors, clinics, and appointment availability don't always show up at the same speed. You may find yourself calling several doctors, driving farther than you planned, or waiting weeks for a routine appointment. Utah is a great place to improve your health by hiking, skiing, and eating less. Just try not to need a doctor while you're doing all that. Number 3, culture and social homogeneity. Yes, it's a big word. I don't normally use big words, but it fits here. And this is why. Utah's social culture is heavily influenced by the Mormon Church, or the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, especially in smaller towns, newer suburbs, and places with a lot of young families. If you're not a member, don't worry, you could still live in Utah. But sometimes you might feel a little left out, like everyone in the neighborhood got an instruction manual except for you. A lot of friendships, activities, volunteer work, and family connections naturally grow through church networks, so newcomers outside the faith sometimes have to work harder to find their people. That doesn't mean everyone's gonna avoid you like you're some sinner, and they're not gonna back away from you when you're drinking coffee. Most Utahns are friendly, helpful, and perfectly capable of having friendships with different beliefs. The challenge is, polite and socially included aren't always the same thing. You may have a pleasant conversation with your neighbor for years without ever breaking into their social circle. The experience also depends heavily on where you live. Salt Lake City and some of the surrounding communities are more diverse and tend to have broader social scenes. Smaller towns and heavily LDS suburbs can feel more culturally uniform, I guess you could say. Not Stepford wife weird, but just kind of uniformed, especially when it comes to single adults and child-free couples. That being said, moving to Utah does not require you joining a religion, but it may require you joining something. Hiking groups, sports leagues, neighborhood events, hobby clubs, and community organizations can help build connections outside the dominant church structure thing they got going on there. Number 2, Utah's economy is strong. Its housing market knows it. Utah continues to post solid economic numbers, including job growth, a rising average wage. Unfortunately, the housing market received the same report and adjusted its expectations accordingly. The Gardner Policy Institute ranked Utah as the nation's 9th most expensive housing market in 2024. Salt Lake, Washington County, and some other ones are classified as severely unaffordable using the home price to income ratio, while Utah, Davis, and Weber counties were considered seriously unaffordable. Now, of course, you can get the standard things where people blame Californians for moving there with their equity and willing to pay more. You can't blame them. You got to blame the developers, the real estate professionals, and anyone else who sets the prices for houses. All right, before we get to number 1, if you're thinking about moving to any one of these houses, there's a link for a website called Home and Money. They can get you in touch with a real estate agent anywhere in the country. All right, on to number 1. And number 1, test drive the neighborhoods on Sunday. Utah's religious reputation is not imaginary, but the state is more complicated than the stereotypes suggest. Pew's latest religious landscape study found that about half of Utah's adults identify as Latter-day Saints, meaning the other half don't. The balance can vary dramatically between neighborhoods, cities, and counties. That matters because a lot of these people's lives revolve around congregations, schools, children's activities, outdoor groups, or entirely secular networks. So if this type of thing matters to you and your social life and you want to meet new people, research your neighborhood you're moving into and drive around it on the weekends. See what kind of things are happening in the park. See how many people you see walking around in their Sunday best. Saturdays, these neighborhoods are posing for real estate magazines. Sunday morning will tell you how the place actually functions. Now that's the whole planned video, but while I was researching this, I found something for retirees you should probably know. Utah offers a state tax credit for taxable Social Security benefits, but the credit phases out as income rises. For 2025 returns, the phase-out began right around $54,000 for a single filer, $90,000 for a married couple filing jointly. Utah may still work well for retirees who want outdoor access, healthcare along the Wasatch Front, and proximity to family. Just don't assume every dollar of your Social Security automatically escapes state taxation. So should you move to Utah? Utah is a strong choice for people who value outdoor recreation, economic opportunity, family-oriented communities, and usually dramatic scenery. It becomes a weaker choice for people who expect cheap housing, effortless mountain access, carefree lawn watering, or spontaneous Sunday liquor runs. 1-1-1-1-1-1. The rain in Spain. The rain in Spain falls mainly on the plain. 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2. 1-2. Stop. Halt. Stoy. Stop. Stop. Before you make hard plans to move to Utah. Number 9. Number 9. Utah's young population changes every day. Utah is a strong choice for people who value outdoor economic opportunity, family-oriented communities, and, you know, the usual dramatic landscapes that you see when you go to places like Utah. Of course, Sunday liquor runs get... The smartest move is to choose an exact neighborhood. Number 9, Utah's young population changes everyone's everyday life. Number 9, Utah's young population changes I need a drink. The next closest state is Texas at 35.6. The next closest state is Texas at 35.6. Spontaneity. Do I say spontaneity? I don't think I've ever said that before. Why did I write it? Spontaneity. I gotta get off that vocabulary app. It's making me crazy. Making me talk like an English professor. I'm not an English professor. Homogeneity. This is another rough one. God damn that app. Homogeneity. Social homogeneity. Homogeneity. That sounds great. Social homogeneity. There's really no word that fits there but homogeneity. That word's gonna throw everyone off in like Mississippi. They're not know what the fuck I'm talking about. Test drive the neighborhood on Sunday. That doesn't even sound right. Extra warning for retirees. So I like to throw things about retirees in there. When you look at the chart that shows that like 80% of my viewers are over the age of 60, so yeah. All right, that's today's video. If you enjoyed that one, I know you'll enjoy this one. It's about towns that will be ghost towns by 2050. Everyone have a great day. Be nice to each other.